So we get a lot of questions about the real estate market and what's been going on with it. We thought we'd give you some of our perspective today. My name is April Villines, and this is my husband, Jeff. We're with Villinesproperty Group, a real broker.
So have you heard about the market's changing? What does that mean, the market's changing? What does that mean, the market's shifting? It's a couple of things we're going to talk about today.
So in North Carolina, there's a thing called Due Diligence. You might have heard about it. It is a non-refundable money that you put down in order to purchase the time that the house is off the market, to do all of your inspections and make sure that you want to go through with the sale of the property. Now, when I first got into real estate, the due diligence fee that's paid to the seller was minimal, like $100, $200 per week. And you would get 3 or 4 weeks of due diligence time. But that has drastically changed lately. And in fact, in the past 2 years, we've had considerably higher amounts of due diligence fee.
We've seen everything from $5,000, $10,000 up to $50,000 in due diligence. Keep in mind, this money is non-refundable. That's essentially what you are paying the current homeowner to take their house off of the market and allow you to do those inspections like April said. Lately, we've seen some pretty amazing due diligence amounts. Anywhere from $2,500, $5,000, $10,000, upwards of $50,000 of non-refundable money. Keep in mind, the seller keeps that money whether you walk away from the house or not. Mm-hmm. You can find out that the foundation's crumbling during your inspection period, and you don't get to keep that money.
That's pretty scary. And when we were recently seeing these crazy due diligence fees, buyers were increasing that dollar amount in order to win offers, right? So you would have a house that you would fall in love with, and you would write an offer, and sometimes we're writing 5-6 offers per client. So imagine having to fall in love with 5 or 6 different homes and then have your heart broken because you don't win the offer. So people were using that due diligence fee to become more competitive. So those numbers were climbing and they were getting into these astronomical numbers. So recently we started seeing interest rate hike, which has gone up to 6% and more in areas. And that's kind of really changed what's happening with the market currently. And it happened pretty fast too. Normally we see a gradual shift. This one was very quick. So with that increase in interest rates, we have fewer buyers that are able to purchase, and we have higher monthly payments, or you may not qualify for as much as you did qualify before. So that causes fewer offers to come in for sellers.
Another big factor that a lot of people don't talk about is the lack of inventory. I was reading a study, and I don't have the exact figures, but it was broken down over decades. And from 1900 to 1910, 5 million homes in the United States were built. 1910 to 1920, 15 million homes were built in the United States, so on and so forth. And it peaked at, I think, 20 million houses being built in the United States in the early 2000s, where in the last 2 decades, that number has gone down to $3 and $4 million per year being built, which has created the buying frenzy because there's not enough inventory. And buyers don't want to wait for new construction a lot of time. They don't have the luxury of being able to wait for a new construction home because their job's relocating or personal situations change. So lack of inventory has been a big driving factor in our market here in Charlotte specifically.
Mm-hmm. And this has a huge impact on buyers. Obviously not enough homes to go around. Now Charlotte currently has about 96 people per day moving to the area. 96 people a day. That's a lot of people. So we need homes for everybody that's moving here. And when you don't have the inventory being built or provided, then what do buyers do? Well, that's where it ends up in a multiple offer situation, and usually a huge amount of offers were coming in. We had listings in the Mooresville area of Lake Norman, just north of Charlotte, that were seeing upwards of 30 or more offers in a weekend. So it used to be that we could go and talk to a seller and tell them, we'll put your house on the market on a Friday, and by Sunday you'll be under contract in multiple offers. And you'll usually have an astounding amount of due diligence fee paid to you. It was pretty standard, right? It was kind of a way of life for the last 2 years, and what we've been seeing with these drastically low interest rates. However, recently that has begun shifting back into the hands of the buyers again. We're not quite in a buyer's market, but now you may have 2 or 3 offers, or you may not see 2 or 3 offers for the first 1 or 2 weeks that you're on the market. So that's a little bit of like a culture shock to sellers and buyers alike. But what that does is that allows buyers that were previously trying to write offers against 30 different people to potentially win an offer on a house and write fewer offers, or hopefully even just 1. So the most offers we've written is 8 for 1 buyer. That was a lot of heartbreak, but we've also won on the first try, right? It matters on what you're doing.
2.
Yep, our last 2. So that shows some of that shifted market. So what does this do to a seller?
Well, it puts a seller in a panic mode because they are used to basically calling the shots.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to list my house for $10,000 more than what I think I need to get for it, and I'm going to sit back and just wait for the offers to come in and wait for the best one. They don't have that luxury right now. It's still competitive, but not as competitive as it was because there is a smaller buyer pool because of the interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
It has forced some buyers to actually put off their home search. It has changed people's budgets.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that was looking at an $800,000 house is now looking at, $650,000 to $700,000 because the interest rate has priced them out of what they were looking at.
Yeah, so is this good or bad, right? It's good and it's bad. It's a little bit of both, right? The good parts is we needed a balance. We really did need to have a little bit of a calm to the storm. We had entirely too many people that were just frustrated and getting buyer fatigue, where they're just exhausted and they don't want to put in any more offers, so they put off their home search. It also does help the people that are very well qualified still able to stay in the game, but it does weed out some of the people that are not able to qualify, and that may not feel like a good thing. We want everybody to have the dream of homeownership, but the reality is that we also want you to be ready and financially secure to be able to buy a home.
You don't want to be house poor.
Exactly, and we don't want to put anyone in that position ever. I mean, it's great if you want to buy at the top of your budget, but we're asking you to buy a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
We're asking to impact your entire life. So the bad parts about this is that some people are now no longer qualified. And that's really hard when you think you're going to buy a home, you're all excited, and then all of a sudden you can't do anything. But the balance is necessary because it can only go on so long, right? It's like building a fire. It can burn and burn and burn and burn really hot, but at some point the fire needs to cool and go out. And that's really what we've seen happening with the change in the interest rates. And, but when you partner that with the lack of inventory, it still is a bit of a seller's market out there. It's just not as crazy. So for sellers, what are some of the things that you can do? Sellers are really having to stage their homes correctly.
Yeah.
They're having to make sure they're clean, maybe painted, maybe even doing a little bit of staging to make it nice and warm. They're having to play music and turn all the lights on and do all the things that they should do for showings. Whereas before, they could literally just put it on the market and it would sell, and usually sell very quickly. So when we see that, we're also seeing agents have to work a little bit harder to market a house, right? They've actually got to do a little bit of that work to bring buyers in and drive that, the potential offer. So it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, it's a little bit of both. My suggestion is, if you are going to purchase a home or be in the market, be conscientious of your budget, speak to your lender frequently, make sure that you're still qualified, and don't rush into it. Make sure it's the right purchase for you. One of the worries that people have is what's going to happen now, right?
Interest rates are expected to go up again, probably around the end of July, from what I've been hearing and reading. But on the horizon, they are talking about declaring a recession. Historically, recession is declared by the government, interest rates come back down. Big misconception, people think that the Fed controls interest rates for mortgages. It's actually controlled through mortgage-backed securities. So talk to your lender about the specifics and the financial impact of a recession can do to your buying power.
So do you put your plans on hold, right? I mean, some people have to buy and sell because it's relocation, like you said before, or they've already put their house on the market and they're already moving, or maybe they're renting and they just need to find a place to settle in. So I would say don't put your plans on hold necessarily, right? If you have a good, competent realtor that can sit down with you and review your situation, and a great lender partner that can also help with the direction that you're going in, that's what we would suggest. There are so many options when buying a house, even the potential for maybe you can get some closing costs from the seller to buy down your interest rate a little bit, pay some points, right? Or get some money to put into your closing costs. Now that doesn't change the fact that you still have a higher interest rate. But one of our good friends, Dana, she always says, marry the house and date the rate. So you can refinance as soon as rates come down to a comparable level and make you feel a little bit more secure. Do we ever think it's going to be at 2 and 3%? Probably not. But it also wasn't indicative of a super healthy market. It got us through the pandemic. It got us through the difficult times during that period in that couple of years. And it did rock the mortgage and real estate world a little bit.
One thing I will say, the market's not going to crash.
No.
Everybody keeps talking about the market crashing like it did in 2008. Completely different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
We're not going to crash because there's no inventory. Goes back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
People still need houses to live in.
Yeah.
So
they do.
I don't see a crash. There's not a crash coming.
No bubble bursting.
No.
None of that.
There's a realignment.
Yeah. And I think that shifting, again, it's necessary. And it's not always a bad thing. It can make things a little hard. If you are thinking about selling or buying, or you'd like to talk further or get any info from us, I mean, we're happy to share what we do know. We don't have crystal balls, but we do have some educated opinions. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to invite you into our VPG family and take care of you. We have referral partners all across the country, so no matter where you're at, we can assist. Give us a call, reach out to us. We'd love the chance to meet you. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good day.
Thanks.